Welcome to the show. This is podcast episode 8. I have Noah and Blake here with me. We're going to be talking just a little bit about their business and helping out anyone that they can. Let's go ahead and hear about you guys. So, what got you started in the business? Tell us a little bit about what kind of business you run and how everything works.
You can go first now.
Um, well, we really started in the pressure washing industry. Primarily, we started doing that 2 years ago. Went into window cleaning last year, kind of scaled. We also do Christmas lights in the winter. At the end of last year, we were kind of sitting there thinking, how else, like, what else can we do to scale? Like, at least for pressure washing and window cleaning, we felt like we kind of maxed everything out. Like, we pulled all the marketing levers. We did door to door. Anything you could think of, we did it. And we kind of reached a point where it was like, look, we can do this again, but profitability wise, why don't we just put in the same efforts in a different industry and our margins are going to be a lot better? So then we kind of just went into gutters originally, and that kind of launched roofing the beginning of this year. So we're also fairly new in the market.
Okay. And how'd you guys meet each other? How'd you guys get started? Like, what's your side of the story, Blake?
Yeah, so I mean, he pretty much told it pretty much how it was. I think this is actually year three, but yeah, we started in pressure washing. We were both actually in school. We were both student athletes at the time in college. So that actually started off as kind of a side hustle, just make money in the summer months. Fast forward, we were both done with our athletic careers. And like Noah said, we were trying to actually scale, make this a real thing. And like he had mentioned in the window cleaning pressure washing space, we kind of felt like if you kind of hit that one, two, maybe even $3 million mark in that industry, you were kind of, I mean, you were as big as it gets really in that industry. And we had installed gutter guards, gutter cleanings, done all that stuff in that realm of the cleaning industry. So then we actually went to gutter installs first, like Noah had mentioned. We subcontracted that out, which again led to the roofing, which led to the insurance stuff, which we'll get into later. But I mean, we met, I think, in seventh grade. We went to school together since seventh grade. We were both athletes. So we played football. Noah actually went to school for baseball. And then once those careers were over, is kind of once we, really took this very seriously.
That's pretty sick. That's pretty sick. I played football too when I was in high school, but I'm not gonna lie, like I was the guy on the I was like this on the sidelines, with the but that's how that went. I know like if now that I'm like in the gym and actually a little bit more disciplined, I would totally crush it on that field, but I never did. So that's just the case. What skills have you guys taken from, the discipline required to play sports? Because it is a very tough realm, especially in college. I've never played college ball, but I could assume it's a lot tougher than high school. Like what disciplines and teachings did you learn from being a football player and a baseball player to what you apply to business?
The time commitment's the easy one. So I think the easiest thing was going from being a student athlete, having school, and then playing football on top of that. I mean, realistically, that was probably like 60 to 70 hours a week worth of stuff when it came to school and football. So then when football was over, I had all this free time and like working 70, 80 hours a week was, I mean, it was honestly pretty easy just coming because I was actually enjoying that, like the work, the making money. Like I wasn't making money playing football. So that and then scheduling, again, which is time commitment, super easy because you have to be so disciplined with your time. Accountability, the basic stuff, but it all did transfer over, how to be successful. That's a real skill. When we played football, we both won two state championships together. Learning how to win and be successful, I think that is a real skill that we were able to take from that.
What you got, Noah?
I'm gonna probably be showing up from high school football even into college baseball. It's just showing up day after day, constantly just putting in, even if it's just a little bit of work, just doing something every day to better yourself and just better the company. It is, I mean, the time commitment, especially more so in high school football than it was college baseball because you get a little more freedom in college. But I think my big one is definitely just showing up every single day, no matter what it is, just doing something.
That's good, man. I think you guys kind of both had the time thing in order. And I think that's very important for a business owner because I know for myself when I first started, man, like time was the thing that I struggled with staying committed. How do you guys stay committed during that time? You know, there's a lot of distractions. There's cell phones and little conversations here and there and just a lot of instant gratification. Like how do you guys keep yourself from getting distracted during your work time?
You can go first, Noah.
I would say, I mean, it's a vision that we have. I mean, before we start each year, obviously in the roofing space, being in Indiana, there's a period of time where you can't put roofs on. So I think it's very important that we, discuss what the vision is, what our goals are, what number are we trying to hit, and then, if we're not at that number, then we're not allowed to be distracted. Like there's things that we have to do, there's processes that we got to put in place to hit these goals that we talked about back in January, February, or else we just kind of let ourselves down and really drop the ball.
Yeah, I think it's very cliche to say, but I think you genuinely have to have a bigger why than just to make money. This what we do is too hard. It takes too much time for it just to be money motivated. If you don't have a bigger why, we just get a job and just work. So I think having a bigger why in your life, having tremendous goals. Because if you don't have that, it's not worth it, honestly. It's just easier to get a job at that point if you don't have a bigger why.
What's the why? Like why are you guys doing this? That's not money motivated.
I think we both have our individual whys, but I think we both came up and we both saw from a family perspective. I think we both want to give our future families a life that they could never even imagine. I want my future kids, to be able to live a life that I never had. Not that I didn't have a great life growing up, but I want to be able to do, whatever I want. I want to have time freedom. Again, that's cliche stuff, but I want to do what I want to do. I don't want to have a boss in my life. It's easier to be your own boss and take time off and when you need it.
What you got, Noah?
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. Just the freedom aspect. Definitely growing up, didn't I mean I had a great life growing up, but I didn't really get to have what I want, do what I want. There's always kind of certain rules and regulations in place, which as it should be for every kid. But given that background, I want to be able to not only provide for my family, and I'm getting married here soon, so that's just another big step in my life. That's a why for me. But also
Congrats.
just giving. Thank you, thank you. Also just giving back. I grew up in the church. I try to give all glory to God, and there's people out there that are less fortunate than me. And growing up, I was never able to touch those people's lives with at least money. And I feel like business is a great way to provide for the less fortunate in multiple areas, whether it's a free roof, free Christmas lights, whether it's just donating money, whatever it can be. There's a lot of avenues that can play into giving back.
So I know you mentioned Christmas lights and the roofing. Do you guys still do pressure washing and Christmas lights, or do you just do?
Uh, Roofing and Christmas lights is the only two. So, to back up a little bit, we did window cleaning, pressure washing, gutter cleaning, Christmas lighting. The services we offer now are roof replacements, gutter replacements, and then Christmas lights. And that's simply because you can't really install roofs in Indiana from like November to February, and that's the perfect season for Christmas lights. It's really October, and it really ends in February once all the lights are taken down.
What are you guys doing right now to currently get your jobs? Do you guys do door knocking? Do you do any like marketing online?
All door
So
to door.
each service is different, really. Christmas lights is a ton of digital marketing, a ton of referrals, stuff like that. From roofing, it's a lot of door knocking because we're mostly in the insurance space. I would say our gutter installs are a combination because we get a lot of our gutter leads from our roofs. But our standalone gutter jobs are honestly usually from digital avenues, whether that be our GMB, Facebook ad, or whatever that might be.
That's pretty sick. That's pretty sick. I like how, you know, you understand that there's a difference with the two. I think from what I'm seeing is you guys do like you have two separate strategies for the lighting and the roofing, and I think do like you guys designate good amounts of times to that, and I think that's very important. How long you guys been in business for in terms of
This
roofing?
is your this is year one for roofing.
Wow. Okay. And has it been a good year so far?
From our original goals, it's been a great year. We didn't really know what to expect, obviously, but roofing's definitely exceeded our goals. So
What what would you say to someone who's looking to start a roofing company? Maybe someone who is either new to it, like first 6 months, or just looking around for some avenue to get started. Like, what would you say to that person?
now you can go first.
It's hard saying given we are kind of that new person, but first and foremost, just do it. Um, the very first job I ever sold, I was there was a storm that hit, and I went to knock doors, and there was another roofing company in that neighborhood, and I very easily could have just been like, "Oh, yeah, they beat me to it." I'm driving a Ford Fusion, and I actually honestly have very little to no knowledge on what damage is on a roof. I go up there, I mark it for wind, get spot for hail. Had no idea how to really run through the insurance process. It was just a matter. I knew how to knock doors. I knew how to talk to people, so I just went and did it. So my advice would be to do it and don't let your lack of knowledge prohibit you from getting into the industry.
That's good, man. I really like that answer. That's a really good answer right there.
I'd say first and foremost, you definitely need to determine your strategy. Are you in a storm market or are you not in a storm market? I think that's number one. If you're not in a storm market, your strategy is going to look a whole lot different than ours. That's really a totally different ball game if you're going to go retail. And then after that, the most important thing when you start a business is how are you going to get your jobs? I mean, that starts with marketing and sales. For us, we knew we could do roofing because we knew we could knock doors. We didn't know what digital marketing was going to look like in the roofing space. It's super expensive. So if you don't have a solid budget, you can blow through it pretty quick with digital marketing. So we knew we could knock doors. And then like Noah said, we really had no idea what we were doing. If you have the budget to do it, I would pay for some sort of training. Now me and Noah have a lot of people we know that are involved in the roofing space that were able to help us. Like you said, what damage even looks like, we literally had no idea what real damage even looked like. So if you can get some sort of training or mentorship, I would do that. If you don't, I mean, like I said, we knew people in the roofing space that helped us out a lot. But I would say those three things.
I know you guys mentioned um, door to door sales, and I think for a beginner, it's always so interesting how any sort of cold outreach, those just really terrible experiences that like after the first week or so would like turn you off to hopping on calls or doing door to door ever again. I'm just curious, like, what's some of y'all's experience with that? Do you guys have like a disaster that happened with door knocking? Um, that's just kind of interesting or something that maybe got you a bit more motivated? Like how did you start out in door knocking? Were you scared? Where were you guys at on that?
So this door knocking started last year with window cleaning. Um, I just, again, we were pulling all levers, and it kind of got to a point where it was like, we've never door knocked, and there's nobody in this space that door knocks. So I was like, all right, well, that's going to be my job this year. I'm going to go out and I'm going to knock. Blake, you're going to take care of production. We kind of set, that's kind of what we still do. Um, and I just went and did it. I had no clue what I was doing. And then, moving on into the roofing space, well, we know that that's a door knocking industry. So shout out to Adam Bensman. Um, Anyone looking into door knocking, go look at his video. Shout out to him. But he helped a lot with just the confidence and the pitch and the process. And it's really just knowing what you're talking about. I have so many horror stories from door knocking, getting cussed out. I get the cops called on me. You'll get them called on you once a week, once a day, maybe depending on where you're at. Um, but every single, at least in the roofing space, for a sales rep, every door is an opportunity to make $3, $4, $5,000. So if you get, cussed out, obliterated at one door, that next door could be your $3,000 winner. So if you just stop, then it's definitely a mental game. I compare it to baseball. Baseball's a very mental game that'll destroy you. Sports in general, but I mean, there's room for it in the industry. And Adam Bensman, anyone who wants to do it, look him up.
Have you done door knocking as well, Blake, or was it just kind of like noticing?
Yeah, so that was I take care of all production, that was all sales. So I've never even done door knocking, but what I will say to it is I think that's what made the transition to roofing, you know, a lot easier than it should have been because Noah had already door knocked for an industry that's not even traditional for door knocking and window cleaning and already somewhat scaled a sales team. Again, in an industry where it's not really a thing, door knocking for window cleaning. It's becoming more popular, but anyways, it's that's a common way to get jobs in roofing across the country. So going from that to roofing and door knocking, I think that made the transition a lot easier, and which helped us be a lot more successful in roofing.
That's good, man. That's good. I like that you guys have different alleys. Like Noah, you do one thing, and then Blake, you do something else. Like Noah's all basically on the sales side, and you're more on the production side. Um, how do you guys? You guys are actually the first people I've talked to that are or like co-owned, and I think that's really interesting. That's why I'm really enjoying this show so far. What uh what kind of tips do you have for people who are either looking to go in business with a partner or already have a partner? Like how do you guys keep because you guys kind of seem like you have a strong relationship just from what I've seen. You guys seem like you're pretty close, you're close in age, you've been together for, friends since you were really young. Like how do you have that strong connection with a partner and almost like call them a brother?
Yeah, I think it's a partnership just like a marriage is a partnership. You have to treat it that way, and you have to pick your battles. That's a big reason we are structured the way we're structured because I don't go into Noah's lane and he doesn't go into my lane. Like I have my roles and responsibilities and Noah has his. And towards the beginning of when we were partners, we kind of both just did everything. And you'll find that, you know, if both of you have the same task, the two of you do each everything differently. You want to go about stuff differently, but if you structure it in a way that focus on your strengths versus weaknesses, like I'm production, that's my strength. Sales is Noah's strength. He might not be as organized as I am, but I'm not as outgoing to go knock doors as he is. So, play towards your strengths versus weaknesses. I don't think it makes sense to be partners with someone if you guys both have the same strengths. There's really no benefit to that partnership where me and Noah are almost complete opposites. So, my weaknesses are his strengths and vice versa. I think that's important when finding a partner. And again, being able to pick your battles, like it, you know, Noah wants to do things some ways and I wanted to do it the other, but what's important to me is production. So, I get to run production, he gets to run sales. I'd say those are, some tips I have from doing this for 3 years now.
Mm.
I would say, obviously everything he just said, but another thing for me is communication. Like, yes, he is production, I am sales, but there is some sort of overlap. Whether it's me relaying information that production needs or production not fulfilling on something I said. And instead of, playing the blame game, just realizing that it's still a team, like we're still partners. No matter what happens, we just communicate, hey, that was my fault. I miscommunicated the expectations that this homeowner was wanting, or, vice versa, whatever it is. Like you said, it really is like a second marriage, just constantly not only building a company, but building a relationship and making sure everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
That's good, man. That's good.
To put in perspective, I think I talked to Noah more than my girlfriend of 7 years. So I mean,
Yeah.
like we're talking pretty much all day, every day, especially during Christmas light season. Like I'll probably be talking to him like 5 hours a day.
That's good. That's good. I like that you guys mentioned communication. I think that's the most important thing. Like I know in my personal life, the few people that I'm around and that I work with, we got to communicate, and that's even when it's like the things that you don't want to say. I've found in my personal life, there have been times where Maybe something was a little bit touchy, and maybe I didn't want to bring it up because of some belief in my head, thinking that, well, this person's going to judge me differently. And I've learned to break that, man. It's just like in that moment when you have this thought in your head, like, ooh, you really messed up right there. Instead of just holding it in, just pushing it out, and that's hard. That's hard for especially someone who's not very skilled in the communication uh, spot. And I think also you have to be a little bit bold to be like, hey, man, I really think you messed this up, and we got to fix it. And instead of holding it in, just telling them. I think you guys have that dynamic, and it's a really good thing. What uh what would you say is like most important in your space, in the roofing space? Like what is the most important thing or most valuable lesson you've learned from, even maybe not even just in roofing, but like as a business owner, what's the most valuable lesson you've learned so far?
No, you can go first.
Oh man. Hmm. Well, there's a lot. It's dealing with homeowners and dealing with customers. I think the most valuable lesson I've learned is kind of it's twofold. One, communication, but also, you know, homeowner education, especially in the roofing space. I was very shocked. I don't know why I was shocked, but how uneducated homeowners are on insurance process, roof replacements. There were so many people this year that after, again, we are primarily insurance, but after going through the process, they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like I had no idea you guys could save me this much money. So the biggest thing is, again, yeah, communication with the homeowner education, and just being on the same team with the homeowner. I feel like sometimes, businesses use the home, it's just a transaction. Like, hey, thanks for the money. Here's your roof. But, what I've found, especially from door knocking, is just building that trust and that relationship, and like, especially working with insurance, like, hey, we're all on the same team. Not that we're necessarily fighting against the insurance company, but like, hey, we have your back if something ever goes wrong, instead of, hey, let's get this check pushed through, give me the money, we're going to get you the roof and have a good summer, whatever it may be.
That's good, man. That's a really good one right there.
Yeah, I agree with no one. I honestly agree with communication. I think you can avoid 98% of problems with homeowners with good communication, and that doesn't necessarily have to come in the form of a phone call or text. Like we give folders to all our homeowners of, hey, this is what to expect on roof replacement day. Here's what's going to follow. Blah 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 blah. The last thing you want is you tear off someone's roof and their decking's rotted, and you didn't explain to them that potentially that could happen, and potentially they could be out of pocket money. Like those become big problems. But if you communicate that before the roof's ever torn off, it's never a surprise. Or a great example is the fact that, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, it's going to be impossible to get literally every single nail. We're going to do our absolute best to get every nail out of your yard, but it's just inevitable. There's going to be one or two that we miss, whether we stay here for 3 hours picking up nails. So I think communication solves 98% of your problems.
I've never heard anyone say that before. I've never heard anyone say those two things you just said about the decking and the nails. When I ask questions like that, usually it's kind of just like communicating. But I think just knowing that you guys are really taking that extra step to make sure as many of the nails are gone, or at least letting them know. Because yeah, I mean, you don't want to be held liable for somebody that their dog stepped on your nail. Um,
Right.
I think that's good. I think those precautions right there are very important. Um, my next question, and this is kind of like a little bit deeper here. What do you guys like? What are your fears? Like, is there a deepest fear that you have with the business? And like, what is that?
I talked to Blake about this recently, but imposter syndrome for me, just, you know, every single year we've been in business, we have a plan, we have a goal, and then, when stuff gets sticky, it always works out. Like we always, whether we have to knock more doors, whether we have to spend more money on ads, whatever it is, it always works out. But I have imposter syndrome very bad. Usually at the end of roofing or end of the season going into Christmas lights, and then vice versa, we're just like, man, like last year was great, but we're gonna be able to do it again. Like, what if that was just a good year? Beginner's luck, whatever it is. So that's my biggest fear, is just for some reason the work running out, even though it's mean, there's houses everywhere, there's roofs everywhere. I don't foresee that happening, but I'd say that's my fear, for sure.
Mm.
Yeah, I have to actually 100% agree with Noah, but what I will say, and this is honestly advice to someone new in business, you're gonna have to essentially get used to feeling like an imposter. Now that we've done it for 3 years, and everything's worked out and we've exceeded our goals every single year, I've kind of just got to the mindset that like every single year I've had the same feelings. Like, can we do that again? Is the well going to run dry? But I've kind of just got to the mindset of it doesn't bother me as much anymore, just because, being year three, every year has worked out. But I think for anyone in business, I feel like you're always going to feel like an imposter. Like we're going up against, 9-figure companies of bone dry in our market. And it's like, well, it all works out at the end. It's always been fine, and it probably always will be. Hopefully, knock on wood. But that's what you have to deal with. Me saying knock on wood. Hopefully, it works out. That's kind of the fear right there. But I guess for anyone new, just know it's always going to be like that. And I would assume someone who's been in business 20 years would say the same thing, that they still always feel like they're an imposter because there's always someone bigger and better than you.
I feel that way, man. I think a lot of people can can relate to that. It's like no matter how far you go, there's always a bigger shark. There's always a bigger fish, and that's right. And it's interesting. I think that directly ties into confidence too. I think some people lack confidence because they're scared that there's people above them. How do you guys remain confident, especially in like a difficult situation, or even when you're talking to a homeowner who maybe wasn't that interested, or they're kind of like back and forth, maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't. Like, how do you remain that confidence, like especially in a sales situation, um where you truly believe in yourself and your brand?
I would say, this kind of goes against what I was saying earlier, but obviously to get started, don't let your lack of knowledge stop you. But then once you're in the midst of it, maintaining that confidence is the knowledge, and the again the relationship building with this homeowner, and being able to convey all the knowledge that I have in a way where they feel like I have their best interest in mind. Um, it's just I don't know if it's from playing sports, or what, but no, confidence to me is just more of a mindset where it's like I can, as long as I know what I'm talking about, know what I'm doing, I can feel confident that I'm going to provide the best service possible. And I think that also ties into the production side, knowing that Blake and the production team is going to fulfill on what I'm selling this homeowner gives me a lot of confidence. So I know I'm not like, hey, I'm going to tell you we're going to do all this, this, and this, when in reality, maybe our production's not the best. But I know that we have a great team on the production side, so I feel very confident in everything I tell customers.
That's good, man. That's good.
I think confidence comes from repetition. So, that's why I kind of say my imposter syndrome is not as bad as it was, because the fact that, every day you're in business is another repetition. Being in year three now, that's why I say I don't feel that I'm more confident than I was in year two. And I assume, next year I'm going to feel more confident than I feel now. So I feel like just being in the game, being in the arena, the longer you're there, the more confident you're going to be. Again, it's tying it back to sports. The more you play football, the more confident you're going to be. That's why you practice for 5 days to play one game. After 5 days, you should be pretty confident going into that game. So I think repetitions. I think Noah would especially agree on door knocking, because all that is repetition. And when you stop door knocking or whatever, you kind of lose the confidence. But as soon as you start getting reps back in, and I know Noah teaches the guys, something they do is go knock the first door you knock the door of someone you know is not going to be home. It kind of just it gets your confidence up, because you knock that first door, it's over with, and now you're kind of in the groove for the day.
That's always rough, man. Is that first one? The first one's always a killer. After the first one, it's easy to do every other house in the neighborhood for as long as it takes. But that first door or that first call, I know that's very rough. I do like the way that you guys said that about like being confident, and having that repetition is so important, man. And eventually, it gets to a point where even people who are in your same line of business, or people who are in um, parallel lines of business, start coming to you and asking for advice and start asking for your work and giving you referrals and that kind of stuff. And that's for me, that's how I was able to really become confident when other people were like, when other people became confident in me, like really confident, that's when I started to become confident in myself, like hardcore. I know you guys talked about marketing and how you were doing advertising, you were doing door knocking, for different seasons and for different things. Um, and my channel is we mostly talk about marketing, because that's primarily what I do. So this is kind of an interesting question, but like, what have you guys tried? And after trying everything that you've tried, what did you hate the most about it? Like, what was the one marketing strategy that you tried and you just couldn't stand it? Or like something about that marketing strategy that you just didn't like?
Yeah, I think marketing is a very interesting topic. I don't think there's a bad form of marketing. I think you can make any form of marketing work. You know, there obviously has to be a return on ad spend or a return on your marketing dollars. So anything that doesn't provide that is a bad marketing source, unless you're going for branding, obviously. I mean, that's a different strategy. I would say the obvious one though, especially in contracting, is going to be your home advisor, your Angie's List, your shared lead sources. But I mean, that doesn't work for us personally, but I've heard of, like I just said, I've heard of companies that have been able to use those and been successful. If you can make a return on your ad spend or a return on your marketing dollars, why not do it? I look at marketing as if I give Google $1 and it gives me $5 back. I'm going to make that transaction as many times as I possibly can. So finding what works, I think every marketing or every service is different. I think every region's different. You have to be willing to lose money in marketing or it'll never work. When we first started, we always budgeted 10% of our revenue towards marketing. And that really just speeds up the dumb process of you're not going to know it works at first. So spend money, and you gotta actually do volume too. Like if you're gonna do postcards, you can't do 1,000 postcards and be like, oh, postcards didn't work, I didn't get a job. Like you have to understand, you know, what you're marketing and the volume you have to do to get it to work. Like door knocking, you go knock 10 doors and you don't get a job from it. You can't say door knocking doesn't work.
I like that point, man. I know like volume is so hard at the beginning. Like I know I had a buddy of mine one time who ran a lawn care company and he was doing aeration over seeding and he was putting out door hangers. And I remember he put out like 200 and he told me, he's like, bro, this isn't working. What do I do? And I was like, bro, you got to put out like 5,000 and then you can believe that it's not working at that point. But
Right.
you got to do the volume, man. That's so important. What do you got, Noah?
Um, Not really much to add on that. Blake takes care of, right now, it's pretty much the marketing. He takes care of the Google, the Facebook. We collectively take care of, getting door hangers out, putting signs out. Definitely the volume, especially for signs, you know, and Christmas lights, it's a sign war. I mean, it is a sign war. Every street you are passing, every stoplight, there's a sign. So the more that you have your brand out there, and I think that's part of volume is brand awareness. Some of that stuff, postcard, it's not that much to send out a postcard, but if you send out 5,000, that's 5,000 people that know your brand now. It may not even be for obviously at some point it'll be a return on investment, but right now it's more just letting people know, hey, we're here and we're ready to, earn your business.
That's good, man. That's really good. I like you guys' answers with that. Um, I think that's very important is taking that step and doing that volume. And I think a lot of startups, and from my experience, and I mean, as humans, we tend to seek for the negative. And so, yeah, you're right. When you put that first $1,000 into ad spend and say, "Oh, Facebook ads don't work for me," or "Oh, Google ads don't work," and like wave it off as not lucrative, I think that's hard after you've failed so much to try it again. So I guess my next question to you guys would be, it seems like you do enough marketing and you do um, what's required in order to get those jobs. And I think my question is, what would you say to someone who either has tried marketing and it never worked for them, or it didn't work enough for them, slash they want to get started with marketing but don't know what avenue to choose, like what would you guys recommend?
That's an extremely loaded question. And in terms of there could be a million reasons why your marketing didn't work. It could be a volume. It could be your agency sucked because not every agency is good. It could be your strategy doesn't work in the way you were doing it. For example, if you're doing Google Ads and you have a $2,000 budget, I mean, and you're in roofing, you could actually spend that $2,000 and not get a job from it. But you have to understand your average ticket's $20,000, 40% margin. You got to be willing to spend $8,000 to see if that's going to even work. And then in terms of searching for marketing strategies, you got to do your research. You got to do your due diligence. You can't just say, "Hey, I'm going to try a billboard," and you have no idea if billboards work in your market or for what you're trying to do. Or say, "Oh, I'm going to try a truck wrap," and well, truck wraps aren't really a lead generation tool. It's more of a branding tool, and it will, you will have a return on that spend for the truck wrap, but that might not happen for a year. Whenever that is, that's a branding piece. That's not a lead generation tool, and then people get mad that their truck wraps didn't bring them jobs.
I may hurt some egos here, but don't do it yourself. If you're doing Google, if you're doing Facebook, don't do it yourself. We tried that year one. We got jobs from it, but there's people out there who do this for a living. Find a good agency. It's hard enough being a business owner, but also being the marketer. There's just too many hats to wear. Don't do it yourself. Stick on to what you're good at. If you don't know how to run Google Ads, don't run Google Ads. If you know how to sell, then just go sell. Uh, like I said, I may hurt some egos because that was kind of us at first. Like, oh, it's very cost friendly. Like, we're just gonna learn how to do Google Ads, and then you spend all your time learning how to do that, and you have no jobs. So that would be my biggest thing right there.
Yeah, I'll add on to that too, because hiring an agency was the first thing I think we actually ever delegated. Like Noah said, like we're roofers. Why are we trying to learn SEO or Facebook ads? Like Google is such a complicated machine and they're always changing. It's always updating. Like it's a full-time job to learn Google ads. It really is. There's so many nuances, stuff like that. And like we're roofers. We're not, uh, SEO guys or Google ads guys. And even if we were, the knowledge we have now is not going to be relevant in 6 months from now. These companies and these ad platforms are so complex that it's not worth your time. You're better off literally door knocking or doing anything else but not signs.
That's a good point, man. I like how you guys said that because this is the truth. I think, and it's to me, it's not even about the wearing multiple hats. I think it's more just like time. I mean, your job is to take care of sales and take care of your processes and the internals of the business. And so, and then again, yeah, even if you don't know it, it's like that's a very hard thing to get into, from the early stages. So I really like you guys' answer with that. We are running low on time here, so I do want to talk about the question from the last call. So for anyone who's watching and hasn't seen the previous calls, the person from the last call asked the question, and then you guys will answer it. And I know we talked a little bit about this in earlier in the call, but I want to bring it up again and see if maybe there's something you guys would add on to this. So the question from our last guest was, "What are you doing this for? Like, what's your motivation behind your business? What are you trying to make happen?"
I might just sit on that for a second.
Yeah, I can. Honestly, mine is so we were in high school, we graduated early, both of us. I went and got a job working, and it was horrible. I mean, it wasn't horrible. It was great. I'm 17 an hour right out of high school, graduated early. I was like, oh, great, I'm making pretty good money. Um, and then I started a little side hustle on my own. I did like one mulch job for my neighbor, and in a matter of 3 hours, I made almost twice as much as I did working full 8 hour day, making 17 an hour, being a laborer at a concrete company. So that was my first glimpse of like, okay, there's something else. There's something different about this. So then I, continued to go on a little entrepreneurial journey. I started flipping pallets, flipping items. And I just feel like, we're both college dropouts. I'm not ever, I don't want to sit on this podcast and say don't go to college. College is great for some reasons and it's bad for others. For us specifically, the more I would do business related things and then actually go to business school, the more I could kind of see through all the BS. And I feel like this is, business is one of the few things where you can, I don't know the best way to say it, make a big impact, make a lot of money, and not have to know how to do a very, I don't know the best way to say it because there's a lot of things you have to know to start a business, but there's also people that you can put in place that already know how to do certain things that can do it for you. I don't know the best way to sum that up, but that's kind of why I do it. I feel like I like playing chess and putting pieces in certain places and being able to make money with my mind than physically have to make money. And I want to be able to have the time that I want to have to do the things that I want to do.
Wow. That's good, man. I like how I think you killed it with the chess thing. You want to allocate. That's how I think a lot of business
Yeah.
owners try to play the pawn and the rook and the knight and the queen and move all the, like, they try to be every piece and you can't. You just can't be every piece. There's pawns. And once they get to the end of the board, they get promoted. And then there's knights and there's rooks and there's people in place for certain tasks. And I think you nailed that on the head, man. That's a great motivation. So just kind of my sum up here would be like, your motivation is because you like playing the game of business and you want to delegate.
Yeah.
That's good, man. That's a really good motivation. I'd say that's pretty similar to my motivation as well for business. What about you, Blake? What you got?
It's really hard to pinpoint one reason. I've got more than one. But I'd say number one, as I thought about it when Noah was talking, was I do not ever want to have a boss. I don't know if it's being a male, we hate authority figures, stuff like that. But honestly, I just do not want to ever have a boss. I don't want to have to report to someone. I want to be able to do what I want to do. I want to be able to run my business the way I want to run it. And simply put, that's honestly my main reason.
That's good, man. That's good. I think that's very common. A bunch a lot about with a lot of business owners. I think that's very common is just not wanting to have that authority in place, and I think that's fair. I think it's a very fair reason. And some people might look at that and say, what's wrong with you? You have a problem with authority, and look at that as a negative. And I don't see that as a negative. I think that it's important as men, we're supposed to stand up and be our own person and do our own thing, regardless of what the world tells us. And when you live unabashedly like that, that's when you really start to make an impact, I think. Uh, well, that kind of wraps everything up. Do you guys, where can we find you guys?
No, you can go first.
You can find us Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Paul Imperial is our usernames for all those, I believe. So yeah, we're on all those platforms. We have a YouTube channel. Doesn't have much on it. We're gonna slowly start posting more stuff on the YouTube channel. We're also, again, fairly new, trying to get our name out there. So those are the Instagram's probably the best way, or Facebook to reach us. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else, Blake.
Yeah, like Noah said, I think every single one of our handles on socials for our business is call, and that's as in CALL Imperial. But my personal Instagram is blake.austin1. I also have Twitter. It's Blake and then the letter E and then Austin. So those are my personal handles.
Yeah, if anyone wants my personal, I think it's Noah Mac 30 on Instagram. I can tell you here in a second. Yep, Noah Mac 30. Pretty simple, MACK. Reach out to me, I have a public profile. If you guys have any questions, feel free.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming on the show. I really appreciated the call, and hope everything goes well. Hope to have you guys on the show again soon.
Yeah,
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
it.
Appreciate it.